Hello, everyone out there in Panther country. This is Tim Widiker, Superintendent St. Croix Central with Panther Podcast number 2. And my guest today is Mr. Kurt Soderberg, our new high school principal. And again, the purpose of these podcasts is to highlight the staff, perhaps some students as guests, and to draw attention to the great things that we have going on here at St. Croix Central. So Mr. Soderberg is our new high school principal that we hired last spring, got started this summer and is off to a great start. We're in week number 2, full week number 2 already in school. And in my opinion, Mr. Soderberg's off to a great start and continued the great things that his predecessor, Mr. Webb, had done. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Mr. Kurt Soderberg. So welcome, Kurt. You want to start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've been in education for most of my adult life. Spent a little bit of time at the college level doing some coaching, but about 10 years ago decided to come back into high school education and knew that I wanted to be in the administrative area. So had an opportunity to work in Merrill, Wisconsin as a AP, and really enjoyed it, learned an awful lot, and look forward to taking the things that I learned there and bringing them here and to St. Croix Central. Married, have 3 children, one in college, and just started at UW-Madison. And then I have a sophomore son and a freshman son. My wife, Paula, is in sales, and looking forward to relocating here in St. Croix area. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just going to say I'm from a large family, a number of educators in my family. Mom and dad were both in education, and a couple brothers and sisters that teach as well. So it's been a real natural fit for me. I've enjoyed being in education, seeing the young people grow and working with staff members. So we'll just continue that here at St. Croix Central.
Can you expand a little bit more maybe on your background, what schools you've worked at, and including whether college or high schools?
Sure. I actually started, my undergrad was at UW-Stevens Point, played a little football there, and graduated from there in 93, and then went to South Dakota State for graduate school, where I earned my athletic administration, master's in athletic administration. I spent a year at Cole College in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, did coach football, basketball, and taught in the health department. And then I took a high school job at Greenfield High School, just outside of Milwaukee. Spent a year there as a Phi Ed teacher, AODA coordinator, and boys basketball coach. After a year there, I went to Marquette University High School in Milwaukee. It's an all-boys Jesuit high school. Really a great experience, taught health. We called it wellness. It was kind of a combination of health and Phi Ed, and coached basketball and football there as well. After that, 5 years there, I took a leap and went up to Northland College in Ashland, Wisconsin, and coached men's basketball there and worked as an admissions rep. And then after a couple of years there, I went all the way over to Olivet, Michigan, which is near Battle Creek, just south of Lansing. And for 3 years there, I was the head men's basketball coach and had the real joy of teaching Phi Ed majors in the education department at Olivet College. Had a great 3 years there. And then decided it was time to get back to central Wisconsin, where I'm from. I grew up in Stevens Point. We found a spot in Merrill that was home for 9 years. Really appreciated my time there. I was allowed to be an administrator and coach, and learned an awful lot about everything from apples to nuts. You know, it was everything from response to intervention to student behaviors to evaluating staff. Had a great experience there and continued to coach, and then decided it was time to move on and try to be a building principal, and that's where I ended up at St. Croix Central.
You had mentioned that you were at Northland College for a while as a head men's basketball coach, and my first guest on the Panther podcast was Mr. Dan Rude, and he was one of your players, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. I recruited Dan out of high school, and we had a year together. It was nice to see his face when I walked in to the I guess it was to meet the staff. It was the first time I had seen them in a number of years. And that was a nice little connection for us.
Yeah. So you talked a lot about your experiences. So are there some experiences you want to talk about or reflect on that were most valuable in preparing you for the high school principal at St. Croix Central?
Yeah, I think the obvious answer is my time at Merrill, but every experience I've had has been really valuable. I think the recruiting experience and having to sit across from parents, some who were really excited about what you had to offer and others you had to convince, was really valuable. I think the diversity that I experienced at Greenfield High School, very transient population, building relationships with kids that had a completely opposite life experience that I had, was really valuable. Marquette High School was a very rigorous academic school, very high standards, but students that just had the regular problems that every teenager experiences. But it gave me an opportunity to see another side. Going to Northland College was amazing. Very tough place to recruit from a basketball standpoint. And also the admissions rep job there gave me tremendous experience meeting. I had the Upper Peninsula of Michigan was my territory, and then we all worked with students throughout the country, but that gave me a chance to see the academic side of it, to evaluate transcripts, to try to find students that were the right fit. That was very valuable. And from there, it was really the kind of that salesmanship that you need to have to get people to buy into what you're selling, whether it be academically or athletically, was very big. And then when I went to Olivet, it was a very unique school, small college in a very small town. We had a lot of students, African-American students from the Saginaw, Detroit area. So that was another little piece that I could add to my diversity experience. I gained a great appreciation for those young men and what they had experienced. So that all played in. So I kind of feel like when you throw in the Merrill thing for the last 9 years, I've kind of seen it all. I've worked with kids from all different backgrounds. I've worked with very diverse populations where I was the minority. I worked with primarily Caucasian kids that grew up in a very similar area that I did in central Wisconsin. And so it all kind of played together and has really rounded out my experiences really well. So I don't feel like there's anything that I haven't experienced in general terms. I'm very in tune to cultural differences and understanding what those are and being sensitive to those things. So all those things play together. I think probably from just running a building standpoint, Merrill was just fantastic for me. My principal there, Shannon Murray, was great. He gave me the reins to a lot of things. The staff was awesome, and that has really played well for me here so far.
So how has the transition gone for you from Merrill to St. Croix Central, both professionally and personally?
Well, professionally, it's probably been the easier of the two. The staff's been great here. The administrative team is very cohesive. I have found that everyone is really helpful. I think one of my strengths is building relationships with people, and that has gone smoothly here. So I expect that to continue. I think people recognize that I'm going to be honest with them. I'm going to listen, and I'm going to try to do what's best for the whole of the group and the district. On a personal side, having a daughter who knows really Merrill was her hometown, to have us leave at her senior year, after her senior year, it was hard. And actually this week, where the move is final, my wife will be joining us here. And that's been hard for Kennedy because of the kind of feeling like she wants to go home and see her friends, and Merrill is home, and no one here really knows her. That's been hard. The boys transition. Will started football, and so he got to know kids throughout the summer, played basketball with those kids, so he's gotten to know them. But he had some really close friends there in Merrill as well, so that's been a challenge. We've really worked hard, my wife and I, to keep them connected. I go back to Merrill every weekend, or Paula comes here. And so now, as we make our final move here, sell the house in Merrill, that'll be a bigger challenge. But I think we can keep up with it and have his friends stay connected with him. Griffin's our freshman, so he was in a transition phase anyway to go from the middle school in Merrill to the high school. We have found some really neat things for him here that he's connected with well. I think Science Olympiad will be one of those things, and certainly robotics will be another one. So he's trying to find his way. He's not as easily, he doesn't adapt to group change as well as Will does, so that's been a bit of a challenge. But you know, the big piece for us is to get settled in, get the family back together. And the transition personally is getting better and better, but it is hard. This is a hard week for my wife. She's leaving her friends. She's home alone with the empty house, and that's just hard to deal with. So she handles it well at home and takes care of all that. And, we're looking forward to getting her here and join us, and of course bringing the 2 dogs with her, which should make for an interesting events in a 2-bedroom apartment or townhouse, to have 2 dogs and basically 4 adults. But it'll be good. It'll be a good experience for us.
Yeah, I can completely relate. 3 years ago, I was going through the same thing where for 1 year, my wife and I kind of, lived apart during the weekdays and saw each other on weekends, and definitely very appreciative of the support that I received from the community. At the time, Abby was in 7th grade, Trey in 4th grade, and they both were involved in a lot of activities, and I got a lot of help with rides, after practices where they get rides home, and, with many evening and late afternoon meetings that are associated with our roles in administration. But yeah, great supportive community. From talking to you, it sounds like, there's plenty of options for housing. The hard part, obviously, was selling your house, so glad to hear that that's done.
Yeah.
So how do you view your role as the principal at St. Croix Central High School?
Well, it's not complicated. I think it's about building relationships, being honest with people, trying to not hide the things that we need to get better at, and really facilitating. I like to see myself as a partner with the teachers. I like to see myself a partner with our office staff, custodians, whoever comes in contact with St. Croix Central. And so I really see my role as being a facilitator, a guide, an educational leader. I want to serve people. That's just kind of the way that I was raised. And in this particular role, I serve not only students, but I also serve staff to a large extent, and trying to grow our staff and assuring our students get a very high quality education that they all receive, and will have every opportunity to make their dreams come true. And that's really what it's about. So it's not a complicated answer. It's complicated to put in practice. But I think if we stay grounded and true to being honest, serving whoever it may be, students or staff, I think that's a really good start. And I think that I have the humility to listen when I'm not right. I don't think I have all the answers, but certainly in a collaborative culture, we can come up with the very best way to get us where we want to be.
Yeah, a lot of those things we talk about on a weekly basis in our admin meetings, and then they in turn, trickle down or get relayed, and we have those kind of conversations in our building leadership teams and in your professional learning communities. But one mantra, we always focus on is students first. We always keep that as our guiding principle in making decisions, what's in the best interest of students.
Yeah, and
I said go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that building off of that, at the start of the year, all the staff got a shirt, and on the back it says "Every student, every day," and that's really how we enter it. I mean, we try to do that, and for me, it's the same thing, except I would add to that it's every staff member every day, where you try to make sure you're meeting their needs as well as the student needs.
Yeah, it's hard work. There's no doubt. I think it's no surprising statement to say that being an educator is not an easy task, and and very proud of our staff and everything they do for our kids. And I think that kind of feeds into the next thing I wanted to talk about. And that's the same question I asked you this spring in your interview. If you recall, you were asked many by many different people, but one of the things I asked was, why St. Croix Central?
Well, and that, when I first started looking at St. Croix Central, I wasn't sure what it was going to bring, obviously. But as I investigated, some things jumped off the page at me, so to speak. One, there was clearly, this was a high achieving district, and that is something that I wanted to be a part of, and not to just come in and sit behind a desk and let things flow nicely, but I wanted that challenge. I wanted that little bit of, hey, we've done it well here. What can you come in and contribute? But bigger than that was probably it's something you don't experience until you actually come here. But what drew my attention was the mission of, basically, we want students to achieve and we want to be respected by other districts. And that got my attention. There was a certain sense of urgency that we have to do things well today, because we can't wait 2 years, because that means 2 years that the clock's ticking, and those students that are here now aren't experiencing that. So we want to move with a certain amount of intensity. We want to move with a certain amount of, I would say, urgency, and that really attracted me. And then when I got here, right from the moment of the interviews, the number of staff members that were in on the interview process, and just the tone that they had, and you could sense it was a genuine feeling of belonging, of being here to serve, something bigger than themselves. That all makes sense to me. And so being here as part of St. Croix Central was kind of a no-brainer. It really was, because of all those things that went into it. So my hope is that I can do something to move that needle a little bit forward and help in any way that I can. So I feel challenged here. I feel excited about the support we get. I love the way our administrative team interacts and works together. We have a systemic plan here that we can put in place throughout the district. In education, people often say we work in silos or we don't work in silos, and here we don't. We don't have just pockets of excellence. We have excellence throughout the district, and that's a reflection of the administrative team and the staff, the parents, and the commitment of the students. So that I don't know why you wouldn't want to be a part of something like this.
I'm very happy to hear that, because obviously a culture like that just doesn't happen by accident, and that certainly has been a focus at St. Croix Central, and certainly a passion and a focus of mine is to create that culture of togetherness, teamwork, and by using the Q12 Gallup poll to measure that, we certainly are into employee engagement, and that's something we've now implemented fully, and we're in our third year of employee engagement, and a lot of those things you talked about are because of that. We want staff to have their opinions, feel like their opinions count. We want their opinion. They're the ones that are doing that incredibly difficult job, and for us to just magically understand that is impossible. So it takes good communication, which our focus is on listening. We want to listen to the feedback from staff. We want to make sure that they have the materials and equipment that they need to do their tough job. We want to recognize the great things that are happening with the students and the staff. Again, another intentional thing has been to celebrate what's important to us, to advertise what's important to us. You'll see banners in every school with what's important to us, from behavior with the CARES program, to our school academic report cards, to the Panther Way, the guiding principles, all those things. Education is an incredibly complex task, but we try and simplify it as much as possible by focusing on those things that are important. So I'm really happy to hear that was your initial impression for the first time you walked in our doors, to your continued impression today. So what's going well so far?
Well, I think probably the biggest thing right now is that I think we've got a good base of relationships. I think I've had a chance to have honest conversations. As obviously you know, every staff member here in the high school will meet with me, and we have 6 simple questions to just start the ball rolling with an honest conversation. That's pretty remarkable that we're doing that, and that is directly tied to the Q12 employee engagement work that we're doing. But I've really gained some valuable little tidbits of information on that, and not the kind of stuff that is gotcha stuff about somebody else. That's not what it's about. It's about how we can improve. I've gotten some really remarkable ideas on how to improve the school from the teachers, and it could be specific to a department. Hey, we need to look at adding this course or adjusting something, or it could be something bigger than that, school-wide. And so from those honest conversations, we had an opportunity to make a spreadsheet of ideas, of things that we need to look at down the road. It doesn't necessarily have to happen in the first year, but it's something that we want to look at. How do we build our numbers in our choir program? How do we continue to build on our numbers in the band? How do we highlight the arts here? Are some of the things that we're going to be working on that I think people in the public will see in time that we're really trying to make that an emphasis. But so I think those honest conversations have allowed me to really get to know what's going on here. What's really amazing about those, one of the questions is about what are you most proud of, or what's one of your greatest accomplishments? And almost every staff member I've met with talks about their relationships with students. They talk about that primarily, and then as a secondary offshoot to that, it's their relationship with their colleagues, which is really remarkable, and something that you had mentioned culture a little bit ago. I just talked to our leadership team this morning here at the high school about that we have to protect our culture here. So when we have new hires, when things aren't going well, we have to communicate, but we have to really protect the culture that is here. And that is a focus that we've been on. So I would say just kind of that honest conversation. I would say the information I'm gathering, the relationships I'm able to build. But from more of a nuts and bolts kind of thing, boots on the ground, whatever cliche you want to use, we've identified some things. We've got building goals throughout the district as well. The ideal lesson, how we're teaching, how we go about that process of teaching is something that started before I got here. We've continued to emphasize that and evaluate that. We really have tried to hone in on professional learning communities, focusing on the collaboration. And again, that's something that we're working on throughout the district. Instructional growth is another one that we want to try to help our teachers with how they can improve their instruction, obviously for the betterment of students. You've mentioned employee engagement. And then probably one that I was not aware of, a need, but am now, is our response to intervention plan. And so that's something that we've started, as you know, to work on, not only in different buildings, but as a school and as a district, we've started to look at how can we really identify those kids that are struggling and those students that already know the information and meet both of those ends of the spectrum in terms of need. So really for us at the high school, we've taken the focus at our building level, the things I just mentioned, and we kind of honed in on a few things. One, we're going to really be intentional about our professional learning communities. We're going to look at and have started to do the hard work of what are the things that our professional learning communities need to accomplish on a weekly basis. How can we be more effective with that and really give some direction? The PLCs have set SMART goals around things that they need to have happen in their particular area, and they are going to start working those SMART goals to show improvement and to measure that improvement. I mentioned response to intervention. That's going to be a really big one. And one of the things that I know about response to intervention is it kind of comes off as this mystery thing that it's hard to do. It is hard to do. But once we get the philosophy and we understand the concepts and the methods behind it, we can set up. We've got very smart people in each one of our buildings in the district. We can tailor our response to intervention. Again, our response to those kids that struggle and those that already know the information. We can tailor that to meet our, based on what our school offers and try to grow that. So, but it is a hard process. And one of the things with response to intervention is we feel like while there's been some informal trainings in the past, we really need to hit that harder and more specifically, more intentionally, and we're gonna do that. So we have a response to intervention team here that will guide us through that process. I mentioned instructional growth. We feel like if we're intentional with our professional learning communities, with a response to intervention, with the professional development that we provide, that we can see our instructional growth increase over time, and hopefully that will result in increased student performance. So as you look at those things, that's a lot. But the things that I just mentioned are the things that really will get my attention. So those are kind of our pillars, or whatever we want to call them. Those are the things that we're going to focus on. And then down the road, we want to look at some continuous improvement models that we can use. And so we've already started talking about those things. And there's a whole bunch of layers underneath those things that we provide to students. The co-curricular opportunities, the arts, the virtual school, the online schooling options that we can provide, professional development, as I mentioned. These are all things that are really important to growing a district in the 21st century, and we want to be on the cutting edge. I would say, all that being said, I think it's very clear that we want to be certainly a top 10 school in the state of Wisconsin, if not better. Top 10 district is something that I certainly don't shy away from, and look forward to working towards those things. So that's a lot to talk about, but those are the things that we're focused on. And now that they're testing, one last thing, testing ACT scores for all students, that's something that we're going to pay very close attention to, because that'll be a measure for us and how we're not doing just with our top kids, but how we doing with all kids, and that's something that'll remain a focus for us.
Yeah, you had mentioned the culture. That you mentioned a lot of things. Three things I know I want to talk about. The culture that we have here, it is certainly systemic, and you and I, even 3 years ago, coming new to the district, I think folks that have lived here a long time or their whole lives maybe take it for granted and don't realize the great culture that we have here, because it's not like that everywhere. And obviously, I keep saying we've got really great kids. And when we say great kids, the first thing I think we all think about it is character. They're good people, first of all, and that doesn't just happen by accident. It's because we have great parents and a supportive community. But it's throughout. It's our school board. It starts with our school board setting the mission and vision and setting the course for this organization. And our least senior member is starting year 13 all the way up to, I believe, year 23, which is amazing. And that's really outstanding stability. And they work incredibly well together. Obviously, one of the many reasons that I was interested in coming to St. Croix Central. So they did a great job years ago setting the district vision of be a district respected by others as a model of excellence in student achievement. They set the district mission to prepare our students with exceptional knowledge, character, and skills to thrive in their changing world. Then a whole list of academic principles and even character goals. So they set the vision, and they let charge the administrative team with implementing those goals throughout. But then it took again, staff, hiring and retaining outstanding educators. And when we say educators, we mean every staff person, no matter your role in the district, is an educator. They work with kids, and they're here because of kids, and everything they do, from the first time in the morning the student steps on the bus to a friendly face and a friendly good morning, to the last student off the bus, or to the last student out the door after a game. every adult that they come into contact with is an educator. And I would even argue that our students are educators, and being practicing those pillars of good character by being good friends and good students as well, and modeling the behavior and setting the expectations. We've got great kids, and I'll visit a number of other schools and through my job and through even officiating and different meetings, and that's not always the case. You can sense it, you can observe it the second you walk in the door. And again, for instance, our kids, do they make mistakes? Absolutely. But for the most part, knock on wood, they're very small and very correctable, and we give them meaningful feedback. They learn, and we move on. But starting my 4th year, for instance, we've never even had an expulsion hearing. That's pretty rare. That really is, and I hope people understand that. But that's, again, a testament to our supportive community, to our outstanding parents, and all our educators in the buildings, and then, of course, the students modeling that and treating each other with the respect that they deserve. Again, I'm not saying every minute of every day everybody is perfect, but overall, we got a really good culture here. The other thing I want to talk about, you mentioned opportunities for kids. That's another thing I think we do an outstanding job of, is offering a plethora of opportunities for students. And because every student is so diverse, and their needs and interests and backgrounds are so different, but I think we do a great job. I love the size of our school district and our school. We have the kind of the small school, the rural feeling, which, of the fundamental, I would say, work ethic and character. Yet we're large enough to be able to offer a lot of opportunities for kids. I mean, and just in the time that I've been here, the opportunities that the staff has presented and the school board has supported, just additional things like the robotics club or science Olympiad, the trap shooting team. Those are just a few. We had just tons of opportunities for kids, and starting from even the child care at the elementary school and the teen center at the middle school, and then all the way up through, like I said, a variety of co-curricular activities in the high school. I guess the next question, maybe you covered a lot of things I intended to talk about with things that are going on at the high school and things that you focused on. You talked about what's been going well. Are there any challenges that come to mind so far?
Well, not really. It's been a really smooth transition. I will say that maybe one of the challenges is just we have kids that achieve here, and I challenge the staff to take a look at, is that a reflection of something that we're doing as adults, or is it by default that our kids just achieve because they have great parents and and so on and so forth. And I guess the purpose of that, it's not a negative look, but it's an honest look at what else can we do. And so the process of learning how to work together in a real meaningful way and using data to support what we're seeing and what changes we need to make, that's a challenge. I think the staff's been very polite to me. They listen to what I'm saying and are trying to do what I'm asking them to do, and that's been great. So yeah, there's some challenges, but I think it's more along the lines of, let's take a really honest look at where we are and don't shy away from those areas where we need help, and let's identify those and really go after those things. But in general terms, there hasn't been much for real deep challenge, because it goes back to culture. The people here want the best for our students. They trust each other as staff members, and they're willing to listen and work together. Every so often you'll see, as being new here, I'll notice that in a given situation, this person steps up. And then in another situation, another person steps up. It's almost kind of like people understand that they take turns kind of stepping up for what needs to happen. So, but I would say, Tim, that overall there hasn't been a lot of challenge here. Like any job, there's things that you have to do that are more challenging than others. But in terms of moving forward and opportunities for kids and instructional growth and all those things, it's been a really smooth transition. I think there's a lot to be proud of here. You mentioned some of the things. I would say that the technology that our students are able to use on a daily basis here, whether it be Chromebooks or bigger things like laser cutters and plasma cutters and 3D printers, is really remarkable. It really is. It's unique, and I think that the way that our career and tech ed teachers work together, that really makes a big difference as well. So there's a lot of opportunity. I see a staff that wants to challenge each other. They want to challenge themselves. They want to challenge the students. They really truly care about kids. So that makes the transition much easier, and that makes the challenges in terms of like resistance really minimal at best. I would also echo that the culture that our students bring here is unique to the fact that I've had one, if any, something you could call a discipline issue, which really wasn't a discipline issue, is remarkable. And it's not just the size of the school. It's a culture that, for whatever reason, is so positive here. One thing, for example, the kids just support each other. We have a Wednesday morning meeting when the teachers are in their PLC time. The students are in the gym for 15 minutes doing some things, different topics and so on. They support each other. And it ties into the message that I gave the kids early in the year about there's 3 things that I want you to do. I want you to be open to the new challenges. I want you to make sure that you are supportive of each other, and make sure that we understand we're all in this together. And it seems like that is the culture that is already here, and that makes this job just so much better, so much easier than what it could be. It's still hard work, but at least you know that you don't have resistance all the time pulling against things. At the same time, I think it's important that we be very efficient in our work. We mentioned honest conversations. If I ask teachers staff members about what's a barrier to them doing the very best that they can, it's oftentimes it's time. And in our culture right now, throughout schools, we want to collaborate. Finding time for those teachers to collaborate and be efficient and effective in what they're talking about is difficult to get to. But we try to maximize our time and try to guard that to the best that we can. So I would say that the challenges have been minimal, but the work has been hard and fruitful, hopefully, and very satisfying.
Yeah, I would agree with all those comments, but especially, again, and we keep talking about this, but it is a big deal. Our students and the support, how they support each other. And again, as you talked, it reminded me of a little over 3 years ago and how easy the transition was because of the outstanding group of friends that both, my daughter and my son immediately formed. And they were so welcoming, and to make the transition for them, go smooth. And as you know, as a parent, that was the most important thing of all of this was that our kids felt comfortable. And like I said, above and beyond, it's amazing the core group of friends that they quickly found and have made their whole experience, not just as a student at SCC, but as a person growing up in their most important formative years. I couldn't be happier, and for that. And you're right. I think it's really important to keep talking about, because it is paramount to the well-being of our kids, that they're supported by each other. You talked a little bit about some things you talked about with kids, with staff? What about any interactions that you've had with parents? What has been your experience so far?
Really very supportive parents. I've had a couple conversations of some difficult situations, but just again, as expected, supportive parents that really seem to trust that we're looking out for the best interest of their children. I had an opportunity to write an article about transitions, and it was really targeted at parents. But my advice to parents is to recognize that transition happens all the time for students, and that things can change. I didn't write it in the article, but one of the things that I talk to parents about in private, and in this case in a kind of an open letter thing, is that you really always want to be in tune to who are your students talking to, who are they hanging out with. If suddenly there's a change in social groups, that should be something they should pay very close attention to be sensitive to that transition after Christmas, before Christmas, when sports seasons change, or the transition from trying out for the fall play and not getting the part they want. These are all transitions that parents need to be aware of. So I would encourage parents to do three things. One is to ask questions, but more than that, to listen and continue to ask questions. You ask your child, how was your day today? What are they going to say? Probably the same thing I say to my wife.
Good.
It was good. It was good. So you need to dig deeper. Think about more creative questions, like, hey, what was the favorite thing about today? Or things like that. And then listen. And depending on the age of your child, they may look at you like your head just spun around. They're like, what was that about? But keep asking, keep listening to them. The second thing is that I think it's important that as adults we stay in the middle with kids, that we don't overreact to their success or failure, and we don't underreact. We want to kind of stay kind of middle of the road. And in particularly for high school students, it's time to now let them start fending for themselves, so to speak. So if there's a conflict with a teacher, or they don't feel like they got the grade they deserve, I would encourage parents to, certainly I'm very interested in how that gets resolved as a principal, but they need to let that student talk to the teacher first and before they step in. So kind of stay in the middle, because I don't know what anyone else out there was like as a sophomore in high school or a freshman, but I know what I was like. And I was always left and right. And as an adult, you learn to play in the middle. And so you're going to see that from kids. Certainly they're in their mind, what they've experienced may not be as severe, likely is not as severe as what they portray it as. So that would be a bit of advice. And then always in transition, I think it's critical, especially as we look at mental health for students. And it appears to be becoming more and more of an issue throughout the nation with young people and their mental health, is to highlight the opportunities. That word opportunity is important to use with staff, with students. And so whether it be a child just does not seem to like this teacher or this class or the what's for lunch, it's an opportunity. And I think we need to always highlight that with our students. For example, let's say that you have a child who doesn't get the lead in the play, or isn't the starting quarterback, or gets their first B ever, or is pulled into a study hall because they are 4 assignments behind. Instead of us as parents overreacting or backing the student and saying, yeah, that's terrible and so on, try to have them work through that frustration by looking at the opportunity. Hey, you've got an opportunity to grow here. You've got an opportunity to get better. You've got an opportunity to support the person who got the lead in the play and to really build that character. Kids will listen to that. It's still a fact that parents are still the number one influence on their children. And thank goodness for that, because it's important that we have that role as parents. So that's my advice to parents. That's what I've talked to parents about, not just here, but every place I've been. And then I talk to staff too, as adults in these students' lives. And in one of the newsletters that I did, each Sunday I do a newsletter that goes out to our entire staff, just within our building. And really this is an old Lou Holtz thing, but he would talk about there's three things that people ask inherently about, or intuitively maybe, about people they meet. One, can I trust this person? Number two, are they going to care about me? And number three, are they committed to me being my very best? And that's what I talk to adults about, in this case specifically with our staff. And if you look at every relationship with a student, from those three questions, you'll get a really quick measure on how you're doing as an adult. And so I think the message is really similar with parents and teachers, staff members, but really critical things to just remember, that we're dealing with young people who you could argue are dealing with a lot more than we did even 20, 30 years ago in school and growing up. And so we need to be sensitive to that and help them. I would like to take a minute to just kind of highlight one of the things that you talk about, a supportive community. And we've had the misfortune of losing some kids to self-harm over the years. And we've had local churches, community members support our district with funds to try to help stem that a little bit. And I would like to give a shout out to Jeff Fern, our counselor here at the high school, for putting together a tremendous mental health week. We had freshmen come in, we had community members come in from Western Wisconsin Health, and they put together 3 mini kind of classes or activities for freshmen. We had a great speaker come in on a week ago Monday actually, to talk about working through challenges, and that things aren't always as bad as they seem. And that was wonderful. And we had the chief medical examiner come into our meeting on Wednesday with students and talk about the importance of taking whatever's going on in your life and putting that in a frame where it's an opportunity. It's not going to be easy. Life is not easy. And Jeff did a wonderful job of putting that week together. I think probably what I'm most pleased with here is that I truly believe the students feel like they can come to an adult, that there is at least one adult that they can come to and express their concerns about how they're feeling or what they're experiencing. So again, that's a lot of words that I've just provided, but it's hard to stop when you start talking about students and parents and what our influence is. It's hard to just keep it really short. So I appreciate you letting me talk about that.
Wow, yeah, all really great stuff, and stuff that I wanted to jump in and expound on, but I practiced good listening skills. and again, this is more about you and the opportunity for students, staff, and community to get to know you better. And I think in I think we're going on about 45 minutes or so, they certainly had the opportunity to do that. Again, there's a lot I want to talk about, but you did a great job, and I can't say it any better than what you just said.
Thank you.
Couple last things wanted to just end with. We'll end with maybe construction, but before that, you mentioned some Fab Lab equipment, and I think it's worth noting, talking about Governor Scott Walker's visit yesterday. His office had reached out to us last Wednesday and said he was going to be in the area and that he would like to visit our Fab Lab. And our Fab Lab, we received a Wisconsin Fab Lab grant from the state that the governor, as one of his initiatives, he certainly supports. We received that grant in the amount of about $10,000 last year. And another big shout out to our tech ed teacher, Garrett Wenzel, who is our STEM coordinator and started our Fab Lab. The timing was perfect with building a new Fab Lab facility within our district. That was part of the remodel this summer. So there was a lot of work that was done in that career and technical education area over the summer with bricks and mortar and remodeling. But obviously a big part of that is furnishing the necessary equipment. So Governor Walker visited yesterday from about 8:30 to 9:30. I think it went great. And no matter whether you agree with the Governor Walker's stance on things, the fact is he is the highest ranking official in our state. So it was a pretty big deal and a pretty big honor to have the governor of the state of Wisconsin choose to visit St. Croix Central High School, when there are about 436 public high schools in the state. And he chose to visit ours. So we obviously were very thrilled to have him visit. It's good PR for Governor Walker, but it's also great PR for St. Croix Central School District. And I was, again, incredibly impressed with the job that Mr. Wenzel did getting things together, but most impressed with our students. They were great hosts. They just did what they always do, so it wasn't a big deal. But I know there was a lot of work to do to get the facilities ready because of construction and because of some things that weren't quite finished yet. Myron Construction worked around the clock Thursday, Friday, and I know Mr. Wenzel and students worked around the clock, and I know Mr. Wenzel was even in here over the weekend, pretty much the entire weekend. He told me Wednesday night he found out he went home, stopped on the way home, bought flowers for his wife, and said, "I'm sorry, I won't be seeing much of you the next 4 days." So that was a veteran move as a husband as well.
Yeah,
so it's not just a hat rack for him.
Well,
so,
and I will say that. Yeah, I would say the governor really, he seemed sincerely interested in talking to the students, and that was the way it was supposed to be. And the kids did a great job. They showed the CAD program and talked to him about how they can take it right from the CAD program to the 3D printer. Governor Walker seems very interested in manufacturing, and I think some of his policies would bear that out. And he talked to the kids about manufacturing isn't just moving one piece from here to there. It's building, creating exactly what our kids are doing right now. Problem solving. And then just the class that our kids showed in the way that they spoke to him and addressed him and the whole thing. It was just really a great experience. And like you said, Tim, bottom line is the governor of the state of Wisconsin came to our school. And I'm 46, almost 47 years old, and I was pretty geeked up about it. I can't imagine what the kids felt like.
Yeah, everybody wanted their picture with them, which they should have. I don't know if you're ever going to get that opportunity again. But I was especially impressed with how relaxed and informal the setting was. And you're right; he interacted with the kids almost the entire time, and at the end with the staff, and had some school board members there. So it was overall a great morning.
It sure was.
So lastly, construction. How's construction going? I know you came into the middle of this. It was incredibly hectic. Our whole commons was filled up with construction equipment pretty much the whole summer. But how's construction going there at the high school? Well,
if we go back to when I first walked in, it was really amazing. I was not aware of all that would bring. Once school ended and they started filling up the commons with stuff, and I learned a lot about construction that I didn't know anything about. I would like to thank Glenn Webb he really helped me with transition. And he had his own new job to work at in the district as director of teaching and learning, but he helped me. And Glenn, that's the way he is. So, but I really appreciated that. The Myron guys were great explaining stuff to me. Jerry, yourself, all great. The construction's gone really well. I think we could say we're behind or ahead on certain things, but bottom line is our teachers are in their classrooms with their students. Our new labs and new classrooms look phenomenal. The equipment is tremendous. It's really, particularly in our science areas, it's a college setting. They will not find better facilities in most of the colleges that they go to. That's exciting. Our lecture room is being used almost every hour of the day, which is great. That's what we want. The technology, smart boards, and so on. We've got a couple to finish up, but just tremendous. And then we're looking forward to that, hopefully getting everything else done, the auditorium, the auxiliary gym, that stuff all ready to go, the weight room, before we break for Christmas. Certainly we need the auditorium done for the holiday, Christmas concerts, and so on. That will be a very exciting tool for us to have. And no better time to really emphasize the arts than when you get your auditorium done. So we're looking to really explode our music program, our arts program, and get that going. So Unfortunately for the air conditioning isn't up yet, but eventually that'll happen. So by next spring, when it gets warm again, we'll be able to cool the place down. But it's been great. Teachers have been wonderful. Staff have been wonderful in helping each other out, store things from one room in another room while they finish the work. Just what you would expect. It's been great.
Yeah, it reminds me when we did a informational video prior to the referendum, and one of my quotes was, with this project, the students would be able to finally get the facilities that they deserve. And yeah, that certainly is coming to fruition. I don't think it's any secret. A lot of people share the same outlook that our auditorium is certainly the crowning jewel of our facilities. Everybody, even Mark, the construction superintendent, said that's the part that he's most excited to build. Right. And he can't wait till it's done. And this is what he does for a living. I was just in there Sunday looking around, and it really is taking shape. I'm super excited too. And there's been a lot of work done behind the scenes and preparing for that use. The board just approved the auditorium use policy yesterday, looking at making some tweaks to that yet to get it perfect. We're trying to accommodate all the different needs and user groups that'll be using that facility. But yeah, absolutely, like you said, geeked to sit in there and see the performances, but also see the looks on the faces of the kids before, during, and after they're on that stage. So yeah, again, want to thank the community for their support of the referendum in 2013. And I tell a lot of people, and they say, how is it going? And, I say, yeah, construction, this construction has certainly been very time consuming and lots of headaches and issues and things to work through. I went into this with eyes wide open. I understood it wasn't going to be perfect and that everything was going to be on time and on schedule and on budget. But again, when you have a team and a culture, that communicates, we worked through all that. And I always end the conversation when people ask with, it'll all be worth it in the end. And it most certainly will. And the end will be here very soon. December 1st, we'll be here before we know it. We'll have our first Christmas programs there December 19th. And like I said, definitely worth it in the end. I'm super excited for the kids especially.
Yeah, it'll be fun to get the reaction of the students when it all opens up and they get a chance to see it. Because if it's anything like the reaction to what the science facilities look like in the lecture room, it's going to be really neat. You're right. They deserve it. We need it. We needed it. As you know, our enrollment continues to grow. We've got great opportunities, and I can't wait to get that auditorium rolling and put it through some great use.
Yeah, and again, the word I use often in conversations with folks is proud. I am incredibly proud of our community, of our facilities, of our school district, of our organization, of our kids, of our parents, of our staff. I'm genuinely prideful and proud to be associated with this organization, and I reflect often in how lucky I am and how much I love my job here. So, and I owe that to all the things I just mentioned.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone out there. Well, we're approaching almost an hour. That went really fast. Again, the purpose of this podcast and have you as my second guest is because there's a lot of people out there that want to get to know you better, and I hope this is one avenue that can accomplish that. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, Kurt. And again, looking forward to a great year.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
So folks want to get in touch with you. How do they contact you?
They can contact me via email is a great way. I've got that with me all the time, and it's a standard ksoderberg@scc.k12.wi.us. Or call the school. Certainly easy enough to do that. I'm happy to give out my cell phone number, but probably the easiest way is to email me. I'm always happy to talk. I'd like to get here real early in the morning, and so I'm always available then as well. So,
what's early? 5? 8 o'clock?
I'm here by 5:45 or 6. Yeah, I like it.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Until next time.